So I want to tell you a story, and it has a point, and this is along the lines of what Prison Alpha does. They start with a tiny bit of humor. So I'm going to hope that I'm going to start into a joke and be able to deliver the punchline okay. But there is a reason for it. And there was this woman who went into a pet store, and she wanted a talking parrot. It was something that she'd always wanted to have. And have any of you heard this one? Chuck Swindoll said it on a podcast, oh, maybe a month, 2 months ago. But so the owner of this store said, I have what you want. I guarantee this parrot will talk. So she said, fine. And she packed up the parrot and went home and came back a week later, and the store owner remembered her and said, how is it going? How is your parrot? Is he talking? And she says, I'm so disappointed. My parrot is not talking. And he said, that's strange. I guarantee that parrot would speak, and it's not speaking. No, it's not. Well, did you buy a mirror? Because if it sees another parrot, then it'll talk to it, and guaranteed it'll work. And the woman said, okay, I'll buy a mirror. So a week later, she comes back and said, this parrot is not talking. You bought the mirror. Did you buy a ladder? You know, those they like climbing up. They're happy, they're getting exercise, and guarantee you'll speak. And she said, no, I didn't. Well, I'll try that. So she bought the ladder. So she had the ladder in the mirror. And guess what? Next week, she steps back into the store, and he says, so did he speak? No. Well, my last attempt, the bell. You need a bell. They really are happy hearing the bell, and they'll peck away at the bell, and that'll help them speak. Well, she said, well, okay, let's try it. So she came back the next week. She was pretty upset. She said, the parrot is dead. He died, just went up and died on me. And the store owner said, oh, I'm so sad to hear that. And she said, oh, me too. And it was so strange. When just as the bird was laying on his back and I got close to him, he actually talked, and he said, doesn't that pet store sell food?
Oh my Lord.
The bottom line is she forgot the basics. You gotta feed your bird. And I have a personal example. I won't stretch it, but I found out that lawn tractors, they seize up if you don't put oil in them. I mean, who knew? Who knew? That was
I would never know that one.
So those are my two examples of the basics. And why I mentioned that is we need to spend time feeding ourselves and spending time with Jesus.
Amen.
We face mountains, we face giants, we face tons and tons of problems, funding issues for organizations, volunteers. There's so many that are needed, and that can really get to you. And the stresses that I hear from chaplains, they need the support from God first of all. Before you are ministering, you got to remember the basics of spending time in prayer, reading the word. And I was thinking of the Navigators, and a very simple, I was 3 years into my life as a Christian, and I had just started at the University of Guelph, and I met and got involved with a navigator. It's a campus ministry, military ministry. It's all over, and they have a thing called the wheel illustration. And for me, if things aren't going well for me, I go back to the basics. I go through the elements of that. Is Christ at the center of my life, or is he being displaced? Have I been having my contact with God, the vertical? In a wheel illustration, you have the Christ the center, you have 4 spokes, and then you have the rim. And Christ is in the center, the 4 spokes, the vertical, the Bible at the basis and at the base, and then prayer is the other vertical spoke. And that's the only way you have contact with God, those 2 ways, direct contact with God. If you're not feeding yourself, you're going to be deader than a parrot. You need to keep up with the basics. And then the horizontal is, what's your relationship like with others, with fellow Christians? Are you having fellowship? Are you building one another up? That's why we have prison networking group, to encourage one another, to pray for one another. And witnessing is like the other side. There's 2 types of people in this world: people who are Christians, people who aren't Christians. I know that's a basic way of putting things, but what's your relationship like with other Christians and with others? Are you witnessing? Are you sharing? It should be just natural that we share all the good things that God is doing in our lives, because people are looking at us. And then the obedient Christian in action: when a wagon wheel is going around, you don't see any of the spokes, you just see the hub and you see the rim, and everything else doesn't matter. And when you're in action, when you're putting God's love in action, you cover ground and you are effective. And it was just a reminder to you to don't forget the basics. When you're facing giants, spend lots and lots and lots of time with God and recognize and meditate upon his greatness. He loves you so much and he wants to use you. But if we don't remember how great God is, we'll be overwhelmed by the giants.